Hi everybody, good evening. How are you? So I'm gonna wait a little bit until we are all getting into session. Today I have something powerful to share with you. And as you come in and as you start joining me, welcome to my episode of Get in the Driver's Seat of Your Life. So my first question to you tonight is, at what age did you start driving? How old were you when you started driving, Sophie? How old were you when you started driving, Nellie? Catherine, I don't think you drive yet. Or correct me if I'm wrong. Esther, how old were you when you started driving? Hey, Sahara. Do you know how to drive, Sahara? How old were you when you started to drive? Or who taught you how to drive? I'll tell you a little bit about me. I started to drive when I was 19 years old, and I actually went to driving school to learn how to drive. Hello, Roberto. I failed my first driving test because, of course, I took my classes in Brooklyn and then around New York City, and then the teacher decided to take me to Albany. Yeah, Albany. For my driver's test. So when they made me park, to park, I completely lost my marbles because I had never been on an uphill. So once the car went on reverse, I went crazy. So yes, I knew it was the teacher's fault. It had to be the teacher's fault. So I have to tell you a secret, but you can't tell anybody. Hi Henry. I drove without a license for 6 months. I had the car, so I figured, why not get? Saludos, Hacienda Torres. Nene, ¿a qué edad comenzó usted a manejar? ¿Y quién lo enseñó? So I figured I had my car, might as well start practicing while I got better. And that was actually good, and it turned out to my benefit because in that same car, I went back to take my driving test and I passed because I was comfortable with the car, and it happened to be in Brooklyn. So of course, if you're comfortable and in your own setting, it's gonna work. So no, this episode of Uniris World is not about a driving class, but it does have to do with something that you can apply in your life. Those of you who are coming in, we're going to be talking about driving. So if you drive, at what age did you start driving, and who taught you how to drive? And the reason why I'm saying this is because in life, the first thing we need to do is get in that driver's seat. And I remember, raise your hand, give me hearts. If you remember having to go somewhere and printing out your directions before you left the house from MapQuest. I remember doing that. I remember knowing that I was gonna go to a place that I didn't never been before, and having to go and search for those directions on MapQuest and get in my car before I left. And I had to follow the directions that were prescribed on the GPS, which back then was MapQuest. Now we have our phone, we have Waze, and the same thing is applied. We have to figure out first, where are we going? We put that address onto the GPS. It gives us an estimated time of arrival. So we sort of know how much time we're gonna take to get from point A to point B. And now we're so lucky, we even know ahead of time if this route is gonna give us traffic and if that route is gonna be lighter and this one has tolls and this one doesn't. No, I always have GPS. I'm gonna go back and listen and respond back. Oh my God, Marcos, ¿cómo está? Que Dios le bendiga. So I know that one of those things is we're constantly looking for how can we blend, life skills with driving. Like, what does one thing have to do with the other? And it all has to do with understanding that we all have a destination on which we're heading. And we just have to know before we set out, what is it that we're going for? And I speak to a lot of people on a daily basis who speak to me about the issue of losing the motivation to be physically and healthy and fit. And a lot of them have the whole idea of, I just don't know, I can't commit. And my constant communication with my clients, with my prospects, with people that I am constantly reaching out to help is, what do you want? And it's almost like when you're going to go on the GPS or you're going to get into a direction, the first thing you ask is, where am I going? So you plug that direction in and it gives you an estimated time of arrival. Now, you're going to get like head on, the first thing you need to know is that you're going to have a route to follow. You're going to have to follow a plan of action because you're revolutionizing your life. Just like when you're out to get in a car, you're basically putting your life at risk too. So you've got to follow the directions. And you have to have a place where you're going to pay attention. And it all goes combined into our brain and the way that we are function. Some of us feel like we're stuck. We are just not making progress. We're not growing. We're not growing anywhere. We're just stuck. We're waiting for a magical thing to come and happen to us. And we wonder, is it me? Is it me? Is it just me that I'm doomed to live this way for the rest of my life? And the reality of the matter is, it's not just us. It happens to all of us. And we are made in a way in which the way our brain functions is in these ways. We need boundaries. Our brain is designed so that it has a boundary. It has something to follow. It has something to focus on. Because if not, you're going to go around in circles and end up nowhere. Your brain is designed so that it creates a habit and it performs best as a habit. If not, like, think about when we're born, the first things our parents do is instill in us the little habits that become ingrained in us that we now do off of memory. And our brain functions better when our memory is in control, when our memory is there, aware of all of the situations, kind of sending us reminders and blinkers like, pay attention, this is going to happen now. So when this happens, what will you do? And the same thing happens when we're driving, right? We're on that road, we're heading to, let's say you're going from point A to point B, and on that route, hey, Mr. Hauser, on that route, you're going to notice there are going to be some delays. You're going to have setbacks. You're probably going to even have some detours. You're going to have to take a moment and stop yourself again. And you're not wrong, and you're not crazy, and you're not the one being stuck. And at that place, I want you to stop and ask yourself, okay, what is it that where am I going? Like, what am I here for? Like, what am I here to do? And then analyze, again, pay attention to the notifications that are being sent your way, become aware of what needs to change, and then take action. You're gonna have to take action so that you continue to move, because if you turn around and go back home, you're never gonna arrive at your destination. So usually what happens when this happens on our GPS, it starts to say rerouting, and sometimes, you know, Siri goes crazy and it goes around and around in circles until it finds its way to get us out of the place in which we're stuck. But we can't stay there, right? Because if we stay there, we won't make progress. We won't see us getting closer to the journey. So I'm sorry, guys, if you are going to get offended by this, but if you're a male, you probably are getting lost and you're not willing to stop and ask for directions. I mean, I know I'm married to a man who rather go go a few miles and he won't stop and ask somebody for directions. But if you're a female like myself and I notice that I'm not going the right way and maybe my GPS lost its connection, I may stop and ask somebody for directions just so that I can be reassured that I'm on track. And again, that's bringing you back to how your brain functions best. It needs something to focus on. It needs to create habit, and it needs to feel secure, and it needs to know that you're on your way somewhere. Yes, Henry, I know you don't ask for directions. So when we're thinking about life, I want you to consider it like you are in that driver's seat. You want to accomplish a goal, and your goal can be many things. I relate it to health and fitness because it's what I feel I have been able to overcome and I can help other people do. But you can relate it to your relationships. You can relate it in your business. You can relate it into parenting. There's going to be situations in which you must set boundaries. You must know, you must set yourself up with a plan of action. Okay, what do I want to accomplish? What do I need so that I can go from point A to point B? Then once you establish your goals and you know what it is you want, now stay focused. You're going to now continue creating a habit that is going to help you move every single day a little closer. And don't panic if you come across a big detour, you come across a place where you have to put yourself on a halt. Literally, guys, cars go empty on gas. And that means they have to stop and literally get gas inside. Like they have to refuel. You're no different. Sometimes we're so heavily going that we're not willing to take a minute and pause and wonder, is there something that I'm doing that is causing me to be out of fuel? And sometimes that is going to make you aware of a situation that needs to change in order for you to grow. So at this moment, you can't, once you're driving, once you get that bottom of yours seated on that driver's seat, you have to do a few things. You have to stay consistent on the journey and trust that your ETA is different than mine. Your estimated time of arrival is different than mine. You may be able to go at a straight shot and you won't get lost. You may be good at following directions and you won't need to stop and ask if you're on the right path. But what if you are? What if you are that person that needs to stop and ask? What if you are that person who happens to get on the highway 5 minutes before the big traffic jam happens? You're gonna have to take a little longer, but you're gonna get there. All you need to do is stay focused. Hands on the wheel. If you're gonna look to the side, don't look to compare yourself or to compete with anyone. Stay focused on the road and stay focused on your growth pattern and understanding that you're going to get to your destination, just as long as you don't turn around and head home. Because I always say this, Israel waited 40 years going around the same mountain because they lost focus. They lost track of where they were going, and they literally forgot why they were on that road anyway. So don't let that be you. Don't let the emotions of this world, don't let the craziness that happens around you, the ignorance that sometimes surrounds you, don't let that overwhelm who you are and what you were created to be. I personally believe that you must be at peace as a mom, at peace as a wife, at peace as a husband, at peace as a human being and a member of our society. And if something is not allowing you to grow in those areas or those roles that you hold, then stop, refuel, and get back in your driver's seat. Nobody's going to drive your car better than you do. I don't trust a lot of people with my life. Yes, I'm going to go back and read your comments. And if you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. I hope you found value in my analogy between getting in the driver's seat and life. But at the end of the day, we all have something to learn from each other. And I felt like today's lesson, I really needed to share it with you. So if you feel that it helped you understand some areas of your life that need growth, and you have a clear path on where you're going and what you need to do, because we feel it inside of us, share it with somebody else and be a blessing to somebody else. That's my motto in living. I know that my life is to serve, and I know your life is to serve. So share along and tag your friends, and let's just grow a community of people who are willing to get on their driver's seat and just own their lives, own each and every turn, and embrace the journey, because we're in this together. We're not alone. And continue sharing with me. I want to know, how old were you when you started to drive? Who taught you how to drive? I don't remember what Henry's first blue car was, but that was my first car. And then he had a hatchback, like a Honda car, and that's the one he used to make me go down the hill riding. But that's how I learned, being brave. I want to thank you for your time, and once again, I'll be back with more lessons that I learn, and I feel that you need to be a part of it as well. Be blessed. Have a good night.